alizarin crimson, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, titanium white, a little bit of yellow ochre. So you're going to go into alizarin crimson. Just pull out a little streak of it and then tap your bristles into it. You don't want a lot of paint. You can always add more paint. It's tough to take it off. So if you do get too much paint, just tap around on like the empty spots on your palette and that'll put some of the excess onto it. So tapping it makes a nice even distribution of color through your bristles. And we're just going to go, I don't know, about like right here. Do your little X's, your little crisscross strokes, or whatever you want to call this shape, or whatever. Just little X's. Very easy to do. Alright, so about there is good, and then we'll actually grab some of this color and just kind of throw it down here. And just so there's a little indication of some of that color. Alright, next go into just a tiny bit of the dark sienna. You don't need to wash the brush, you can just use the same dirty brush. So then just right above this, you're going to start doing your little X's. But you want to make sure you use a small amount of paint. Like I said, you can always add more paint if you need to. But this is going to be a really soft painting. So I'm not really too sure how well this is even going to show up on stream. But it's going to be a really, really soft painting. Alright, so then we'll just pull in some of that color from the side. This is just putting a teeny tiny base layer of color down here. I mean, we're going to have all kinds of stuff in front of it, so you won't see this stuff in a little bit. It sounds like porn. Nice. Alright, so now we're going to go into the Van Dyke brown. Just a little bit of that. Tap your bristles into it. It's the same dirty brush. Still haven't washed it. You just tap it in. And then up top, you're going to put this color in. Nice soft painting. Alright. Grab some of this. And put some down here. We just want to have the same colors in the sky down here. Right, real gentle, go across, blend that thing together. And then speaking of blending, now we're going to blend the sky together. Just doing your little X strokes. Really blend this out. Alright, let's take a step back and see if it's blended how you like it. And if so, just go gently across the whole thing. And all this is doing is it's taking out the brush strokes. So everything looks nice and smooth and even. Alright, so there's our little sky. Here's our little water base. Now we're going to put some little wispy clouds up top. You could use the knife, you could use fan brushes, you could probably use your finger if you wanted to. I'm just going to use my little number 3 fan brush that I broke the other day. I'm just going to go into a little bit of Van Dyke Brown. You're not going to use a lot of paint. You're just going to put like a couple little like streaky wispy cloud thingies. So maybe just kind of put them wherever you want. No real right or wrong way of doing these. Alright, so there, we'll leave it like that. So now you go in the nice clean big brush, and you're going to blend these out following the angles. Just go very light, very light. And you can pull these in one direction if you want to have motion going in a certain way. Alright, there's our little wispy clouds. And then to take the brush strokes real light, back and forth over the whole thing. Alright, there's our little clouds. Very, very simple to do. So now I'm going to mix up some color. It's going to be pretty much equal parts of crimson and the browns, both of the browns. So Van Dyke, dark sienna, and crimson, pretty much in equal parts. And this is going to be the color that the mountain is going to be. Alright, there we go. Set that down over there. Alright, this is the number 6 fan brush. This is the bigger of the two. I'm just going to go into some color and make just a real basic mountain shape. It doesn't need it to be like anything huge. Just kind of go along, make little bumps here and there, and go up one side, go down the other. Putting in little indications of peaks and stuff. Alright, so that's really about it. And then just grab some of this color, pull it down so you have some down here. Alright, so there's that. Now we grab a big brush. I gotta clean it first. And then beat it dry against the bottom of your easel. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to go in here and grab and pull this color down. You just want to concentrate on keeping the top ridge nice and dark. That's really all you're worried about, is that very, very, very top ridge. None of this other stuff really even matters. So I'll just pull this out. Alright, there's our little far off mountain in the background. So now, right here, we're going to put some clouds, so it'll look like this mountain is like really high up and there's like a big layer of like mist or fog or whatever coming in like that. So for that, we'll just use the fan brush. Use the number 6 fan brush again. This is just going to be straight titanium white. Now I'm going to put just a touch of liquid white into this just to thin it a little bit. That's because we already have a couple layers of color on there. So for clouds, all you do, you just use one of the corners of the brush, put that corner toward the top, and you just do circles. That's all there is to it. Super easy to do. And just keep your brush moving. And the only part you're really worried about is the top. Just the top parts of the clouds. It doesn't matter what's going on down there, because that whole part gets blended out. Put one over here. It's like a little one. But you can just scrub these little things in wherever you think they should go. There's no right or wrong way. And there's no like right or wrong shape either, you know? I'm sure if you go look up in the sky long enough, you'll find every shape of cloud imaginable. Alright, so with a nice clean dry brush, you're just going to wind up the bottom of this stuff. Now when you're doing this, you're just going to use the top corner of the brush. That's it. It's always going to be touching the canvas. But in reality, there's only probably like 40 hairs that are actually going to be touching. So you don't want to put like the whole brush against it. I do need to wash this brush though. It had a little bit of that purple and brown color on it. Grab the palette. Beat the brush dry. Alright, so just with the top corner, you're just going to blend the top parts of these. Just do little tiny circles. You're going to stay away from that top edge. Just do the bottom. Just do the bottom. Alright, so we have that one blended. So now you're going to do like a, kind of like a C shape. To just lift it. And what this is doing is it's fluffing up the cloud. On the top part of the cloud, the part that we didn't touch, there's a little bit of paint built up right there. So when you do these big rocking strokes, it pulls the paint up and it makes like little wispy things coming off the tops of the clouds. So once you do that, you just really light go over it. It'll take out those little wispy things, but it still leaves the motion of the cloud going up like that. So you just beat the excess paint out of the bristles and then go over here to do this one. Again, just teeny tiny little circles. Little circles. And you fluff it up. And go across. Alright, so there's one little layer of clouds. And if you want, you can go back in and do, you know, another layer. I'm going to have a couple more layers of these in here, but I can show you, like, you just start right here. And it's the same thing, just constantly keep your brush moving. You don't want to just rub in one spot. If you do that, you'll just end up with like a big cotton ball. And you won't really be too pleased with it. Unless you want big cotton balls, and if you do, that's how you would do them. So yeah, you just take your big brush and go below the top edge, nice and slow, just do little itty bitty circles. Teeny little circles. Right, so when you get to the end, you can do the little fluffy up thing again. And go across. There we go. Now we have another little layer of cloud right there. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start working on some stuff in the background. So I'm going to go back into this original color that we had going. I'm going to put some more crimson into it. Maybe a little bit more brown. A little bit more of both of the browns. We'll just mix this up, make sure it's nice and mixed. Pick the paint up off of the easel and turn it over. That'll ensure that it's evenly mixed. Right. Oh, damn it. My knife just fell. Okay. So now that we have our main color that we're going to use made up, I'm going to set aside a little chunk of this. Put that right over there, and I'm going to put some white into it. I want this to be pretty pale. When you're doing landscapes, the stuff that's furthest away should be the lightest in value, meaning it should be closest to the white side. Let's get some more. There we go, that's what I was looking for. That's a good color right there. I like that. Alright, good. Alright, so today I'm going to use the 1-inch brush. You could use the 2-inch brush if you wanted. You could probably do a fan brush if you wanted. Yeah, we're just going to go into some of that color. We're going to put some little foothills in there. And these are going to be like way back in the distance, so you don't want a lot of detail. So pretty much just using the corner of the brush, I'm just going to start pulling down. Just touch and pull down. But you shouldn't really be able to see too much of this. It should be fairly light. So just nice and gentle. You're just touching and pulling down, barely touching it. Barely touching the canvas. Alright, so there's that. We'll go back in with our big brush. Tap along the bottom edge just to make a little bit of mist. Lift up. Go back in that same color. Let's do another little clump of them, like right here. But leave a little bit of separation between these two layers. Make them look like they're really, really far off in the background. And since the canvas has liquid white on it, if it's a little too dark, all you have to do is just go over it a couple times and it'll mix with the liquid white and lighten up. Go back in with the big brush. Tap along the bottom. Lift up. Alrighty. Now we'll put another little layer of cloud right there to make it look like it's sitting up in the mist as well. Let's go back into your white. Go into your big brush, wind it up. Do a little fluffy up thing. Go across. Alright. Now it looks like we have a couple of little clumps of trees way off in the distance back over there. So now using this same color, I'm just going to start adding a little bit of brown to it to darken it up. Because when you get closer to the foreground in landscapes, stuff will become darker in value. You don't want it to get too dark too quick. Alright, so now we'll just start putting in little footy hills over here. So these ones are going to be a little bit more defined, just because they're a little bit closer. But it's the same thing, you're just touching and pulling down. I'm holding the brush vertical. Alright. And so now I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab another, well actually I'll just use the big brush. I'm going to go into just a teeny tiny bit of yellow ochre. Just a teeny bit. And then down here I'm just going to touch and pull up. Just so there's a tiny indication of some color in this. Not very much though. Tiny little bit. Alright. I'm going to go back into the brush with that same color that we were just using. Right in here. So I just put that little bit of yellow in there just to make a little bit of a different color so these two layers separate. I just want to have a little bit of separation between these two layers. Alright, good, good, good. Alright, so now we're going to take the big brush and go into a little bit of that color. I'm going to go up here and just pull straight down. These are going to be reflections right here. Let's pull it straight down and very lightly go across. It just gives it a little shimmer on there. So then you go, take your knife, and you go into this color. You can actually just set this off to the side, really. Take some liquid white just to thin it down. This needs to be really thin though. So you're going to need a good amount of liquid white into this. No, it's still too dark. So let's start over. You don't want this to be dark. You want it to be mainly white, just with a little tint of color in it. There we go, that's better. That's better. Alright, so you just pull it out nice and flat, cut across and get a little roll of paint right there on the top edge of the knife. And you're just going to go right in here and just cut in a water line. This liquid white will just come right off of the edge of the knife. And just really scrub into the canvas with this. Really push it in there. Alright, so there's a little water line right there. And so now the rest of the painting is just going to be doing this same thing over and over. I'm going to bring in another set and then another set. Always going a little bit darker than the previous layer. But just make sure you don't go too dark too fast. Alright, so we'll go right here. But this is a real easy little painting to do, and it shows a lot of depth. So if you were looking to get into doing this style, this is a good one to learn with. It's not super complex or anything, and it teaches you some good basic blending techniques and how to create depth and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back into that yellow color. I want to pull this down a little bit further. Oh, we just covered up all of our little misty stuff. That's okay though, we know that it's there. Alright, there we go. So with a little bit of that yellow, I'm just gonna pull up into this color. A little bit more. I want to see this a little bit better. There we go. That's better. There we go. So we got that little bit of yellow right there. Oh my god. There's a glob? Where's a glob? There's no globbing around here. Alright, so then we're going to just put another little layer. And we use that yellow as a way to separate these two little sets of trees. Now you're going to pull this side down further because we got to put reflections down here. And if this side is taller, you need to reflect it down here. So pull that side down further than over here. Then you just take your big brush, doesn't matter that it's dirty, and grab and pull straight down. And then very gently go across. Typically when you're doing like the little shimmer on the water, you pull from one side. You don't want to go back and forth. Just pull it from one side. So I always just, whenever it's on this side, I pull that way. When it's at this side, I pull that way. It just looks a little bit better. Alright, so then you just go back into that same little waterline color, put a little bit on the edge of your knife, and scratch this one in. But you guys can probably hear, I'm like really cutting into the canvas. You want to try to cut through the layers of paint that you have on there so it'll grab a little bit of that liquid white and brown color. Alright, so now we're going to have like another set right here. And this one's going to be even darker. So you can just basically add Van Dyke to the color now. Let's try not to go too dark though. Yeah, this is a good color. Right, so then we'll just start, where do we want to go? Let's go right here. See, we're just covering up all this stuff we just made. But that is A-okay. Because now you know how to do it. Pull this down. Okay. Go with our big brush back into that yellow ochre. Put some of this down here. And this kind of painting, you can really do this one in any color that you want to use. You know, you're just basically doing values right now. Color really isn't important. But you can see how having that light color, that yellow, between these two dark layers really separates the two. And that's what you want. I mean, you don't have to use yellow. You could use any color, really, any bright color. You could use white and it'll look like all kinds of little misty, foggy effects, you know, going through all the trees. You could use reds, you could use greens, you could use blues. Pretty much whatever you want to do. Alright, so let's grab some of this color. Down like that. Grab your big brush. Pull straight down. Grab your knife. Get your little roll of paint for your water line. Scrub this sucker in. Just really push into the canvas. You're not going to hurt the canvas. Alright, so there's another little water line. Alright, how's it looking on the stream? It's looking good on the stream. Alright, so now... I don't know if I want to put like... I don't know, I want to have something over here. I think what I'll do is I'll just put some land over there. So just use the knife. Just grab a lot of paint. And just kind of really just smash it into the canvas. This is just going to be like a little bit of land. It'll be kind of like a little overlook area. Like really push it into the canvas. Go. And we gotta put some highlights on that. So grab some white, some of that original color that we've been using throughout the whole thing. Mix it up so it's marbled. Cut across, get a little roll of paint, and then very lightly, you're just gonna drag the knife across. And it's gonna put little breaks in the paint, and it'll make it look like it's dirt. But you're barely touching the canvas when you're doing this. This. Use a little. There we go. Just remember to follow your angles. Angles are the most important thing. There we go. Looks like a nice little dirt area. Alright, so now let's put a nice big pine right here. I mean, I guess I could make like a humongous pine going like all the way up here. I don't really want to do that though. Alright, let me grab the fan brush. Alrighty. Yeah, this is an oil paint. This is just like a really soft one, Talik. Very soft. I guess I should try to... Do I have an Instagram? I got a Twitter. It's linked off of my page on here. Oh, what's up, zombie? A watchtower? Nah, I don't want a watchtower, dude. Alright, but I do need to make a nice little pile of paint. So we'll just take that same dark color that we've been using throughout the whole thing. Make a nice dark color. And we'll go back in and put highlights on it. And you just really want a nice dark color. And in fact, I think I'm gonna grab some black and some blue, just so it gets really, really, really dark. It's always good to have it a little bit too dark than too light. Alright, there we go. Let's get this stuff in there. Yeah, nice dark color is what you want. Nice dark color. You could use any colors. You just want it to be really dark. That is the only concern. You want it dark. Alright, so now we'll put a pine. So you want to have a lot of paint in this brush. So when you're loading fan brushes, you just wiggle it back and forth, doing like a little S or whatever. And what that does is it pulls all the paint to the tips of the bristles, and then go through a couple times on each side. And it makes a nice straight line. Alright, so now what we gotta do is figure out where this pine is gonna be. So I'm thinking it's gonna be right there. That's where it is now. So you're just gonna use the corner of the brush, and you're just gonna touch, and you're gonna start slowly going back and forth, kind of like a little Z shape. So just touch, touch. And the farther you get down, start applying more pressure. You really want a lot of paint. You want a lot of paint. Lots and lots. It is one big tree. So just go back in, fill in some of the little spaces. When you go back in though, try not to hit like the same places that you've already hit. Because if you do that, it'll start blending the paint with the stuff that's in the background. You can see how it kind of does it in some places, like right here, you can see how it blended with the white. There's a big old honking pine tree. So now we just got to put some highlight on that. Alright. Nice clean dry brush. I think I'll put a little bit of like the yellow ochre on it. I'm going to go into some paint thinner just because I need a thin paint to stick on top of a thick paint. So here you're just gonna tap here and there. You don't want to like get rid of all your dark color. It's gonna have kind of just some indications of color on here. And the further it gets down, the less color you're going to want to have, like a less of a highlight. But if you're having trouble getting the paint to come off, all you have to do is just add a little bit of paint thinner. Thin paint will stick to a thick paint. It's like the golden rule of this style of painting. Alright, so then we can just grab a little white, a little of this yellow, grab some of this crimson. Let's kind of make just a nice little color. I'm just going here and put in some little grassy areas here and there. And there you go. And I think that'll just about do it. Well, I guess I could put like another pine over here. Might as well. We don't want this tree to get lonely. I'll give him a couple of little baby trees next to him. This is the big granddad of the bunch. I'll put like some littler guys next to him. Let's have one kind of like with a little crook in it. A little hangy over tree. There we go. Now he's not lonely anymore. And we'll just go back into the highlight color. It's just like the yellow, a little bit of crimson, a little bit of white. Mix it on the brush. Just put a little bit of highlight on them. Put some little tree chunks on these. Scratch them in with a knife. Or you can paint them in if you want. Whatever's easiest for you. And just cover up little bits and pieces of the chunk you just scratched in. You don't want to see like the whole thing. Otherwise it'll just look like a big scratch. As long as you can see a couple little pieces in there. And then you can come in here and just do some little sticks and twigs and stuff. Alrighty, I think that is about finished painting.